great to be here. I love this church, and I love this community. It was 30 years ago that I first met Reverends Pat and Jack Barker, and visited the church with them, and then, of course, I know Reverends Pat Williamson and Doris Hoskins, and I just walked up this morning up the steps, and I said, you know, this is such a model church. It really is. It always has been. Walk up, and there's those, you know, the grounds are beautiful, the beautiful banners, and walk into the sanctuary, and look at this space. It's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. You know, some of the things you may not know is that our sub-regional meetings, our Unity and New Thought sub-regional meetings, Peggy Weiland puts that together, and she's who keeps us together, because otherwise we wouldn't have all that contact information, and she keeps it updated for us. And this is an interesting thing that happened. You know, the music, I wondered what the music was going to be today, but I didn't say anything because, you know, you've got your music director. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun? I mean, like, wouldn't it be nice to have songs like Imagine and Let It Be? And so Billy said, we're having Beatles songs, and we were just on the same wavelength. It's amazing because he was in Los Angeles just yesterday recording, so imagine how late it was. He got back home last night, but to find out that we were on the same wavelength with the songs was great. And I was just so impressed with you all. I came early, and just the professionalism. I have never seen anything like this. I mean, I've been doing ministry for 30 years, and, you know, somehow, like, ice water, I mean, who does that? And the candles are lit, and Paul's like busy with getting everything in order, and I thought, well, you know, he told me I could move this, and I thought, okay, I will, but I didn't really want to because he's got it so perfectly wrapped around, and I just, you know, these screens up there, I love that. In the ladies' room, there's this pretty little card that says, I'm willing to forgive. I thought, wow, is everything perfect? I know Larry produces those 7-week programs and for churches, and they're so excellent. So, and then I talked to Bob this morning. 26 years here, Bob Hesford, 26 years. Wow, I could go on and on with all the different people, but thank you, musicians. Okay, today it's the Lenten season, and I wanted this message to be about divine will is not divided will. And I wanted to focus on what happened the night before the crucifixion when Jesus was to be betrayed. Because in that time, Jesus models our oneness with God's will. He models our clarity of purpose. And he models what it means to forgive and to let it be. Jesus models for us who we are as a child of God. He knew that in his reality, the truth is always greater than the experiences in the world. So he's in that Garden of Gethsemane to pray. And he asks his disciples to keep watch of your mind. Keep watch of your mind. Keep watch of your own fears. Do not sleep, for you must be aware of your thoughts, so that we can let those thoughts go in peace. He's in the garden, and 3 times he asks his disciples to stay awake. Jesus illustrates how forgiveness is not complete all at one sitting. Sometimes it's repeat and repeat and repeat. And those thoughts we want to release just keep coming back. We need just to keep working at it and go back to being awake by knowing who we are and focusing our focus on the divine. That's the focus. And not all these thoughts that distract us, that keep us asleep. Jesus understood the obstacles before him, and he knew to pray. He prayed, everything is possible with you, God. Everything is possible. Take this cup. Take this cup. In other words, take this fear. Jesus was human too. He had these experiences. And he said, take this fear. In trust and certainty, he knew that this was the final handing over of his personal will, and from that moment forward, there would only be the holy will of God. He prayed, allowing his mind to be filled with peace, love, and light. And he said, God, your will, not my will, your will. Judas symbolizes how our mind can be confused by keeping worldly thoughts instead of the truth of peace and love and light. Confusion comes from believing that we are separate from the love and the life of the divine. So when Jesus returned to his 3 disciples, they were sleeping. And he said to Peter, could you not keep watch on your mind for 1 hour? Have you ever tried doing A Course in Miracles and the lessons? It's like to keep focused on God. Keep focused on God. It is not easy to do. Watch and pray to focus on truth and not the falsehoods in our world. Jesus recognizes our oneness, our humanity, and sees that it is his own mind that's not focusing on truth. That's why he had to go back 3 times to remind himself there's only one of us. There's only one of us. He says, oh, the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. So Jesus got back to praying again to let go of the will that seemed to separate us from God's will. So in that scenario, Jesus goes back 3 times, finds him sleeping again and again, and he prayed again that he may let go of the will that seems to separate us from God's will. And when he comes out of the garden the 3rd time, he knew he was ready. He just knew he was ready. There's that knowing. He had fully accepted the Holy Spirit's will as the only will. There's not a split will. And that's what he got to. There's not a split mind. There's only one mind, one will. Never divided. Sometimes we believe that we're a prisoner of those thoughts. And he got to the point where, okay, I'm going through these experiences. I will not be a prisoner in my mind. I will not be betrayed. In his mind, he was not betrayed. In his mind, there was no death. He was ready. We sang that song, Nowhere Man, and it reminded me so much of when Jack and I got married. We got married in 1989, Reverend Jack Poole. And actually, I asked him to come and share it was one of the darkest times of my life, getting married to Jack. And it wasn't about Jack. It was because when I grew up, my parents always said, if you marry someone outside of our race, someone who is not Chinese, we will disown you. And they said it and said it and said it, and I believed it. So when I fell in love with Jack, I chose to follow my heart. And in that time, my parents did say, we are disowning you. And I had no family. No family. Except on my wedding day, my sister, who's a Unity Truth student, came. She attended the wedding from Seattle. We got married at Unity Village because I decided, okay, my family's not going to be there in my hometown in Washington State. I'm going to get married in front of my Unity family at the Unity conference, at the June conference. And so that's where we got married. But the day before the wedding, I had that split mind. I had a split mind. I said, okay, Jack, tomorrow's our wedding day. And you have nothing to do today. Go ahead and go play golf. Go ahead and play golf. But you have one thing to do. Pick up your tuxedo. He plays golf, got home without the tuxedo after hours. I said, Jack, he took responsibility, got on the phone, called the police. The police called the owners got in and got the rented tuxedo. He got home and tried it on, and it was, the legs were way too long, needed hemming. I said, I'm not doing this, you have to do it. He'd never hemmed anything before in his life. And he did. He had stitches about this big. When, I just figured anybody ought to know how to hem something, but no, they were this big. And we were going to be on this big platform at the Unity conference in the Unity Village Chapel where you could see those those big stitches. So I ripped them out, and he did it again and did it right. I brought this Chinese embroidery, and what this is it's a work where Chinese, very few Chinese, it's rare, will take this on, but both sides are perfect. You could look at either side, and either side is perfect. There's no knots or anything where you could tell where it began, where you ended, any of that. And it symbolizes that we never have a split mind, really. That it's always perfect. No matter what we choose, our choices are always perfect. I know that you're in a minister search right now, and you know that we are all ministers. And our purpose here is to know and share who we are as love, and to unfold those gifts of spirit that we have. We are here to be used at a higher level to support the healing and transformation of others so that this planet can be transformed. Each one of us is on a sacred path, a holy path lit by the light of heaven. We go home all at once. We're all one. share the light. So how do we go about being one with divine mind? This is what we do. We watch our mind for limits that we have placed. Question all the limits that we have in our minds. Question our beliefs. Start questioning. I know when I grew up with this whole, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And I see that pattern come up again and repeat throughout my life. But when I notice it, I can transform it. It's waking up to it. And when I was looking at that, I remember, okay, growing up as a girl in a Chinese family, there was this whole attitude of not being good enough, you're not as good as a guy, and then really looking at this one instant that stayed in my mind of being at a piano recital, and my parents were not proud of me. I didn't do as well as they had hoped. And I took that one thing and just carried that my whole life of, oh, not good enough, not good enough. Just remembering that one thing. And then someone asked me recently, well, what other things did they do to show you they weren't good, that you weren't good enough? And how did they not love you? What are those things? And, I just focused on that. I couldn't think of anything else. I mean, that was their culture with the boys and the girls, but they expressed love. And that one thing, when all the many, many ways they loved and showed me that I was good enough, but I focused on that one thing. So we need to look at those patterns and stop it. Watch our minds for those limits that we have placed there. And number 2, be willing to see the limits and use a little willingness to not believe them again. Be willing to see the limits and use a little willingness to not believe them again. And 3rd, release the thought and open our mind to the mind of God. What thoughts repeat and repeat that keep you asleep, that keep you from awakening, that keep you from opening to the mind of God. There's a verse, a passage from A Course in Miracles text. It says, to be wholehearted, you must be happy. If fear and love cannot coexist, fear and love cannot coexist. And if it is impossible to be wholly fearful and remain alive, then the only possible whole state is that of love. That's the only possible whole state. And that is who we are. We are whole. We are life. We are light. We are love. What's the first essential element in the healing of our mind that will constitute the healing of our world, of our neighbor, of our friend, of our loved ones, etc.? The first essential element in the healing of our mind. It is our willingness to abandon fear right in the moment that fear seems like it's called for. It might be a behavior that arouses fear in us. It might be a physical condition that arouses fear in us. We let all of that go. In God, nothing is impossible. You must be willing to abandon the fear and move into that place in you where love is felt, where your love is available. That must be more important to you than your reaction to the fear. Do not react to fear. Here and right now, be in the certainty of who you are as love, as life, as light. Like that little card in the bathroom, in the ladies' room, I'm willing to forgive. Why don't we repeat that? It's so powerful. Just put our hands on our heart and just know that truth. I'm willing to forgive. I am willing to forgive. One more time. I am willing to forgive. And then 3 times together, I am love. I am love. I am love. I am love. You've claimed the love that you already are. Imagine the miracles and expect the miracles. That is part of the healing process. If you're going to be a healer, you would have to make a commitment to that first step constantly. You would know that the way it works, and therefore, that's the way, is to know and commit to who I am as love and light. That's my task. This is all I do, is bring my thought back, to bring my knowingness, my certainty back. Instead of having these distracting thoughts, bring it back to a focus on who I am as divine, as love. I consciously choose to abandon my inclination to react with fear, and instead I insist upon connecting with my ever-present capacity to feel and be the presence of love. So from that love, I extend an intent and send out only one kind of message. And that message returns to me with an energy of love and light and abundance, of peace, of blessings. Imagine a perfect world. Be clear about how you are, who you are, in a perfect world without those distractions. Be that with clarity, and you will manifest the world that you imagine. Choose heaven. Be grateful. Just be grateful. You just let it be. Because when you let it be, you know that there's only the presence of light, only the presence of love, only the presence of peace, only the presence of life. When you let it be, you open to manifest that which is already given you. So back to what Merle Fillmore said. So get busy using the truth you know. Bring forth your own joyous world of love, friendship, beauty, and plenty. God is giving you everything required to build such a world. There is within you the God-given intelligence to build such a world. Get at it. And let's say that and affirm it 3 times together. Get at it, get at it, get at it. And so it is.